Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and for today's video we're going to be talking about all of the books that I think are going to be 5 stars this year. I don't know why it took me this long to make one myself, considering that I love watching these videos so much. The 2020 5-star predictions videos have been fantastic, and I think my favorite part about these videos is always the update. I love hearing people pick up a book. I think this is going to be a 5-star read. And then seeing the updates and they hold the same book up and go, I gave it 2 stars. I just think that kind of chaotic energy is what I thrive off of. So I thought now is a good time to do one myself. So I have a mixture here of both book titles that haven't released yet, they'll be releasing in 2020, and other books that I already have on my shelf that I haven't read yet. I'm trying really hard, really freaking hard, not to buy so many new books unless I know for a fact I'm going to read them soon, because I have a bad habit, and my boyfriend can attest to this, as I'm sure he will after he sees this video. I buy a lot of books and then they just kind of sit on my shelf for a little bit, a while, before I actually read them. So I'm trying to get better, and that means buying less books, only buying books that I have the full intention of reading as soon as possible. All that to say that these are the books that I plan to read in 2020, and I hope that they are going to be 5 stars. So I'm going to start off with the books that aren't out yet. I'm going to start with the one closest to release and then the one that's furthest to release last. First one I have for this is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. So Chain of Gold is the first book in a new trilogy, I believe it's a trilogy, of a Shadowhunter story. To Edwardian London, a time of electric lights and long shadows, blah 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 blah, demons, yeah, we know how the Shadowhunter world works. James and Lucy Herondale, children of the famous Will and Tessa, have grown up with their loving friends and family, listening to stories of good defeating evil and love conquering all. But everything changes when the Blackthorn and Carstairs families come to London, and so does a remorseless and inescapable plague. Yo. I'm excited just on that alone. I think putting a Shadowhunter story on the backdrop of something historical that has happened is going to be really interesting to read about. James Herondale longs for a great love and thinks he has found it in the beautiful, mysterious Grace Blackthorn. Cordelia Carstairs is desperate to become a hero, save her family from ruin, and keep her secret love for James hidden. When disaster strikes the Shadowhunters, James, Cordelia, and their friends are plunged into a wild adventure which will reveal dark and incredible powers and the cruel price of being a hero and falling in love. To be honest, that doesn't really tell me much about the synopsis of the story. I anticipate enjoying myself and enjoying all of the callbacks to the Infernal Devices series that are going to happen in Chain of Gold, and I anticipate giving this a 5 star. The other book on my list that isn't out yet is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I'm pretty sure I can say now that Elizabeth Acevedo is like my absolute favorite author of all time. Like, you can read a sentence and feel like someone literally reached through the book and slapped you with it. I always love her characters. I love just how simplistic but also heartbreaking and heartwarming her stories are. I haven't even gone into what Clap When You Land is about, and honestly, I'm okay not knowing. I just see her name on it and I'm gonna buy it. Camino Rios lives for the summers when her father visits her in the Dominican Republic. But this time, on the day when his plane is supposed to land, Camino arrives at the airport to see crowds of crying people. In New York City, Yajaira Rios is called to the principal's office where her mother is waiting to tell her that her father, her hero, has died in a plane crash. It seems like they've lost everything of their father. They learn of each other. And now Camino and Yajaira are both left to grapple with what this new sister means to them. Can I have this now? Like, it sounds like I'm going to cry profusely from start to finish, and I'm absolutely ready for that. The last book on my list is Cemetary Boys by Aiden Thomas. Aiden Thomas is just a sweetheart. Can I just say that? Yadriel has summoned a ghost, and now he can't get rid of him. When his traditional Latinx family has problems accepting his gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself a real brujo. However, the ghost he summons is actually Julian Diaz, the school's resident bad boy. Left with no choice, Yadriel agrees to help Julian so that they can both get what they want. But the longer Yadriel spends with Julian, the less he wants to let him leave. Male romance. Yes. Oh, I'm just so excited for it. It just sounds like it's going to be a great time. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to touch on Latinx families and the expectations that Latinx families have on us growing up, and what we're supposed to look like, who we're supposed to like. And I think it's going to be so interesting to read from the perspective of Yadriel, who's just kind of like not fitting into that mold, and kind of resonating with that, and how do you like bridge that gap between family and your self-identity. Oh my god, yes, it's like everything I want in a story, because it's something that I struggle with personally, and it's something that I love to write about and reflect on in my writing. So I'm just so excited for this, and I'm so happy for Aiden. Another Latinx story that's getting into the hands of other Latinx kids out there, and many congrats to him. Okay, so now we're on to my list of books that I do physically own and that are on my TBR and have been probably sitting on my shelf for quite a bit and need to get read. The first book that I have is Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. This is the sequel to Skyward, as it says right here. Yeah, I absolutely loved Skyward and was so surprised by it. It was the first Brandon Sanderson book that I ever read. And just from reading that first one, I already feel like, and knowing Brandon Sanderson's reputation for crafting stories and world building, I'm very excited for this, and I have really high hopes that the sequel isn't going to fall into that like weird sequel second book syndrome, and that this is actually going to be really, really good, more insightful, more world building. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to buddy reading this too with Natalie, and I can't wait, especially with the way that the first book ended. Definitely leaves you wanting to know more about the world and just about how all of this operates. And you definitely get a sense that the world is bigger than we think it is, or at least bigger than what our main character thinks it is. I've just decided to get all of the sequels out of the way because it's harder to give a synopsis for the sequels because things that will be spoiled. So the other sequel that is on my list here is God's Grave by J. Kristo. I was technically supposed to read this last year and I just didn't get to it, but I have the audiobook downloaded. I'm ready to get into this. I want to give into this hype into the series, so I'm anticipating this is also going to be a 5-star. So the series follows Mia Corveri, who is training to be an assassin. When she was younger, her father was executed for, I'm assuming, some type of treason. I don't know if the book actually said what he did, but I kind of forgot already. So I'm hoping the second book will recap that for me. So ever since then, she kind of carries this burning desire to get revenge. We follow Mia as she enters into this like assassin school and starts to train to become like an official assassin among this like assassins guild. Stuff happens and crazy stuff. I mean, I'm always going to be the first to tell you that I absolutely love stories that involve a training montage or some sort of like, not so much an academy setting, which is why this book surprised me so much, because normally like academy setting books don't do it for me. But the way that this one was done focuses so much more on the training aspect, and the trainings surprise you if you think it's going to go one way and it goes a completely different way, and I think that's what makes it so gripping. So the first book was really exciting in that way. I anticipate the second one is going to kind of shift focus a little bit because of events that happened in the first book that are going to really alter how the world operates in the second book. This next book is Roar by Carmack. I absolutely adore Cora as a person. She's fabulous. If you don't follow her on Twitter, you should definitely go follow her on Twitter. And I was a fan of Cora's new adult romance series, especially her Rusk University series. That series is absolutely phenomenal. It's like a sports new adult romance. It's so good, especially All Played Out. I was looking for my copy because I have it completely tabbed up. The spine is so bent back and broken, and it's a completely loved book, okay? It's fabulous. So this is her first kind of soiree into young adult, and Cora has such a like fun and energetic writing style that I think it's going to translate beautifully into young adults. I'm very excited. So we follow in this story Aurora, who comes from one of the oldest Stormling families in existence. So Aurora is being brought up to be like the new queen of this land. However, she hasn't shown any trace or aspects of magic. So to keep her secret and save her crown, Aurora's mother arranges for her to marry a dark and brooding Stormling prince from another kingdom. When she dons a disguise and sneaks out of the palace one night to spy spy on him. She stumbles upon a black market dealing in the very thing she lacks, storm magic. Ooh, I love when there's black markets and they're selling magic, and that's totally something that's in my book. Oh my god. A handsome young storm hunter reveals he was born without magic, but possesses it now. Aurora realizes there's a third option for her future. She may not have magic now, but she can steal it if she's brave enough. This sounds awesome. And the next book that I have on this list is Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is the author of Daisy Jones and the Six, which is her most popular, well, that one and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is probably her most popular books. I haven't read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I don't know that I will. There's just something about it that's not propelling me to pick it up, and it's probably because it is so hyped and so loved. I got lucky when I read Daisy Jones and the Six because I read that kind of before all of the hype came out about it. But that is a fantastic book, by the way. That was my #1 favorite book of 2019 was Daisy Jones and the Six. Naturally, I had to pick up another Taylor Jenkins Reid book that seemed like I would enjoy. So Forever Interrupted follows Elsie, who meets a guy named Ben, and they hit it off immediately. The chemistry and sparks are flying, and within a couple of weeks, or if not months, they decide to elope and get married. And so they're all happy on cloud 9 over this marriage, and just 9 days after that, Ben dies in a motorcycle accident, and Elsie is just kind of left with what the heck does she do now? She finally meets Ben's mom, who's her mother-in-law, and she's never met her before. And so this story, I think it also says, I'm not sure if it's told in like 2 timelines, but it says that it interweaves Elsie and Ben's charmed romance along with Elsie and Susan, who's the mother-in-law, and their healing process. Forever Interrupted will remind you that there's more than one way to find a happy ending, and I just think it's going to be beautiful and heartbreaking. And I also like that it's somewhat a completely different story than what I read of hers previously. I felt like if I read Daisy Jones and the Six and then I went into Evelyn Hugo, I would compare the two too much. So I like that I'm breaking it up with something that's almost completely different from Daisy Jones and the Six, but probably also still gonna make me cry. The next book on my list is actually a self-published novel that I purchased from the LA Times Festival of Books last year. Is For Blood and Glory by Cassandra A. Hendricks. This story follows Saphira, who has gone through something very traumatic. So the death of her father, as well as the curious mental decline and subsequent imprisonment of her mother, she moves to Southern California. Strange things begin to happen. Suddenly, she finds herself thrust into a supernatural underworld that defies human comprehension. In this new world, a war is raging, and in a cruel twist of fate, Saphira is somehow at the center of it. Something's coming, and it will force her to reevaluate everything she's ever been told and unearth the demons she thought she left behind. I put this on this list is for multiple reasons. One, the cover's beautiful. Like, absolutely, chef's kiss, fantastic. But also, when I sat down and had a conversation with this author, the excitement that poured out of her, that someone was just willing to sit down with her and have a conversation about her work, like, it just ignites something in me as a reader that I want to love this story and I want to adore the characters and this world. The fact that it's also set in Southern California really does, like, I'm so excited, especially because I'm in Canada now, so I'm missing aspects of my home. And honestly, I'm just excited because this is a Black author with a Black main character, and I really want to support and love that. And the last book on my list is actually the one book that I have already started, and that's an Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. For those who don't know, again, on one of my like top 10 of 2019 books, her other book, Sorcery of Thorns, was on this list. I absolutely loved that book when I read it last year. The writing style was great, the relationship in it was great, the characters, I love the characters. So it made me interested to see how I would enjoy her first book. At least it didn't get like stellar reviews, but I feel like now that I kind of know what Margaret Rogerson's writing style looks like, and now that I kind of know a little bit of how her characters interact or form relationships together, I think it's gonna kind of inform how this is gonna read for me, kind of going in with more of I don't want to say lower expectations because that sounds bad. This story follows Isabel, who is a painter, and she's kind of known for painting fantastic paintings. And specifically, she paints the fair folk. She kind of builds this reputation of being a great painter for the fair folk, and so they all come to her with their business. Even the Autumn Prince decides that he wants to commission her to paint his portrait. She makes this portrait of him and I guess depicts some kind of mortal weakness in his eyes, that he's like, how dare you paint that? You've got everything wrong. This is terrible. And he, in his fury, decides to take her to his kingdom and put her on trial for having created this painting of him. Seems a bit extreme, my dude, but something is very wrong in the world of fairy, and they are attacked from every side. On each other for survival, their alliance blossoms into trust, then love, violating the fair folk's ruthless law. Simple, no fuss, fairies, humans, falling in love, this kind of hate to love sort of mentality, and I'm excited for it. So those are all of the books that I have on my 5-star predictions list. Stay tuned for the update video when surprise, surprise, I give them all 2 stars. I don't think that'll happen. I have some really great books on this list that I can't see myself rating low at all. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not already. Leave a comment down below if any of these books are on your like most anticipated or your 5-star predictions. Also let me know what your 5-star predictions are. Maybe there's some books that I didn't put on the list, or I did try to limit myself, so I'm sure I missed a lot of great books out there. But yeah, let me know what your guys' picks are in the comments below. And again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!